Welcome to a relatively overcast and most likely rainy day in Tokyo, where I'm here to review a car that I really want to love, but it's kind of like this woman you've been dating for a few years, you really love her, and then when the topic of marriage comes up, you go, So the question is, what is it about the third generation Suzuki Swift that I really like, but can't bring myself to love? So there are many things about this car that I really like, and at the same time they build into the fatal flaw of this car that I really hate. So things that I really like about this car, if you've watched enough of my videos, you know I like these small hot hatchbacks that handle well, have good steering feel, and like good input feel in general. And this car nails all of it. Down to the brakes. So there's a red light now, and a lot of cars have spongy brakes. Not this one. If you step even a little bit on the brakes, it bites, and it bites hard. It takes a bit of getting used to if you've been driving some other cars, but it has that very sports car-like brake bite where you can trust it to slow you down. The next thing that I love about this car is the fact that when you turn the wheel, it means business. We'll take this left-hand turn at speed and boom. That is incredible steering feel through the steering wheel. You get lots of feedback. The weight kind of increases as you go into the corner. It feels fantastic. This car just has an overall sporty feel to it. The steering quickness, it's incredibly quick. If you do even tiny inputs to the steering, it's hypersensitive and you can change directions with ease. And these are all these little points that add up to making a very fun, sporty car. And the Suzuki Swift absolutely nails this fun, sporty stuff. Thank you, navigation lady. So the next thing about this car that I really like, and just seems like something that I wouldn't like, is the incredibly boxy nature of the car. And usually when you have like a sporty car, like a sports hatchback even, the Mazda 2 and the Yaris are a good example, there's this strong rake of the windshield to give it those extra sporty aerodynamic lines. This car doesn't do that. It's incredibly boxy. So what that actually means is A, there's more interior space, and number two, this pillar here, it's a bit thinner and it's a bit out of your sight. Regular cars these days, that thick pillar running at a sharp angle, it does block your visibility when you look right. In this car, it just doesn't do that. You have pretty good visibility out the side, and when you're driving and carving up a mountain road, it's much nicer because when you're making a right-hand turn, you can actually see where you're going. So the Suzuki Swift is an actually small car. There's a few cars that are considered compact and small and are actually a bit bigger than you'd think. This one is very small, and you'd expect maybe the interior space isn't so great. The front is very spacious, and then the back was surprising. I was expecting this to be incredibly tight, but then once you're inside, like, you have a lot of leg room. Compared to a Mazda 2, a Toyota Yaris, this is much more comfortable for backseat passengers. It's a bit worse than something like a Honda Fit, but this is fantastic legroom for the back, and if you have a small family, everyone will fit in here happily. If you have a couple of friends that you need to take somewhere, you can go a long distance trip, and if they start complaining, you should slap them across the face. The only place where the Suzuki Swift might lose out a bit on the competition is the trunk space. I mean, it's perfectly adequate for most shopping trips and even getting luggage into. Like, I fit inside perfectly fine as usual. It's not quite as spacious as other cars. You can see the rear seat kind of protrudes and my shoulders kind of already catching on it. And since this hatch is slanted, once you close it, you lose the space kind of here. So unlike other cars, I will not close the hatch right now to prove the luggage space, because I will actually give myself a concussion and possibly break the rear glass. So despite this being a very small car, the interior is very spacious. Like, this is one of the most spacious feeling small cars I've been in. So you can see lots of headroom. And since the car is so boxy in shape, it's just very roomy in here. I don't feel claustrophobic at all. And overall, the interior's aight. The quality of all the materials isn't bad. It's not like noteworthy or good either. A lot of these hard plastics around, but once again, it's like they don't look too cheap, but they actually don't look as high quality as stuff in the Mazda 2 or the Toyota Yaris. And I mean, it's aight is the best way I could say it. The one saving grace of this car in terms of the interior is the steering wheel. It has this leatherette wrapping instead of that weird squishy foamy plastic that most low-end cars have. And even if it's not real leather, oh, it's so nice. I've been driving so many of these cheap rental cars, and just having this leatherette steering wheel, it just feels really nice. So I both like and don't like the looks of this car. I mean, it's a very cool, sporty look, but the problem is it also looks like one of those deep sea, what's it called, fish that light up, and then it kind of looks ugly and bloated. It does kind of have a weird pufferfish grouper look to it, so that part's not that attractive. However, I have seen the sport models of this car with the extra side sills and fenders and everything, and I have to admit, it looks fantastic, especially in white with the red trim on it. This car looks absolutely beautiful. In this sort of sea green, I think it looks pretty good. In some other colors that I've seen in the base trims, it actually doesn't look that good. It looks more like the deep sea anglerfish than a sporty car. However, once again, it's like in white with the spoilers and everything on it. It looks fantastic. So I'm saying a lot of positive things about this car, and I really do enjoy driving this car. I really like it. It's really fun because it's overtly sporty. But at the same time, that's exactly why I can't love this car. All the things that make it so fun and so overtly sporty can also be major drawbacks. So, for example, when I was talking about the brakes biting immediately and feeling really strong, they're too sensitive sometimes while you're driving through the city. I mean, if you just sneeze and then go achoo, boom, you're stopped, your passengers slam their head onto the dashboard, and you're like, whoops, the car behind me just rear-ended me because I hit the brakes a bit too hard. And they are that sensitive compared to other cars. Cars like the Mazda 2 already have a pretty sensitive brake pedal. This is 2 steps more sensitive. And it's nice when you're driving down a mountain road, when you're going 20 kilometers an hour through Tokyo traffic, and then the car in front of you slows down a bit, and then you go, poof. It's not that fun. Obviously, you get used to the sensitivity of the brake, and it's not an issue, but the example I gave earlier, if you sneeze, you know, your motor controls aren't as finely tuned in that situation. Next thing, I was talking about the handling of this car. It handles beautifully through corners, and the steering feel is absolutely fantastic. However, to get this excellent handling, the suspension's incredibly firm. It's not just sporty, it's incredibly firm. So as we're driving down some of these roads, they're not busted up and broken by any stretch of the imagination. But once we get off the perfectly glass smooth roads and onto sort of normal-ish roads, you start to feel every single imperfection in the road. And the road noise from the imperfections of the road goes straight into the cabin. And you know, that's kind of what you want in a sporty small car. If I'm driving down a mountain road, I want to be able to feel every bump in the road because it lets me know how much grip is available, and it lets me know how much speed I can carry through the corner, because I get all this information, and I love that. But going around town, if you're just commuting or something, it gets tiring. And I know that's the old man in me talking, but it just does get a little tiring. So, yes, this car is uncomfortable. Yes, the cabin gets really loud. But that's not why I can't love this car. The reason why I can't love this car is because it's so sporty that I really wish it had a third pedal and it had a proper manual transmission. With the CVT, this car just contradicts itself in the worst way possible. Because you're driving along going like, yeah, sporty fun, and then this little screen pops up and tells you your eco score. And you're like, why do I need an eco score in a sporty fun car? Why do I need this transmission that just kind of prioritizes fuel economy over performance when the rest of the car is screaming, drive me hard and let's have some fun, and then the other part of the car is going like, let's save some gasoline, and you're like, what the and it just frustrates me. I really wish this had a manual transmission, and then this car would be kind of perfect in the sense that this is a nice, fun hatchback. It's cheap, it's fun, it's fast. So if you get a Suzuki Swift Sport with a manual transmission, this is a fantastic car. I would immediately buy one if I had a parking space in Tokyo. However, since I'm doing rental cars, they all have a CVT, and it doesn't help the sporty mode. I mean, there is a sport mode on this car, but the problem is a sport mode in the Mazda 2, the revs climb, it's exciting. This, because of a CVT, put your foot down. And you're like, this isn't fun, this isn't exciting. It just contradicts the rest of the nature of the car. And because of that, I just can't love this car. So in conclusion, despite this car's very poor ride quality and noisy interior, I really like this car. It's just so fun to drive. The overt sportiness makes you forgive all of its shortcomings. However, in this trim with a CVT transmission, it's kind of unforgivable. I kind of want to buy one of these cars just so that I could get a Suzuki Swift Sport with a bit of extra power and a manual transmission. I think this car with a manual transmission is just going to be so fun. You don't care about poor ride quality. You don't care about practicality. It's just a great car to have. It's a great car to drive around. In terms of driving around the city, even though it's not that comfortable, the visibility out of the car is fantastic. I haven't had to worry about, am I fitting perfectly into this narrow lane? Because you can just tell you are in this car. Everything about it is so communicative, and I just love it, but I would love it a lot more if it had a manual transmission. So this is basically like having the perfect girlfriend, but she has some STDs. So you're just not sure what to do about it, and you just prefer the perfect girlfriend who doesn't have the STDs. I know that's a bit of a crude analogy, but I think that's the easiest to understand.